I'm still getting used to the technology. I'm with you for the first time, and I'm delighted to be here. My thanks to my friend Bruce Marcus, who told me about the Cork Yarnspinners. I was born in New York, but I grew up in a small little village called Castletown-Geoghegan, County Westmeath, from about 1.5 until I was 10.5. And one of my favorite storytellers has always been the great Eamonn Kelly. And Mrs. Kelly has been kind enough to give me permission to tell Eamonn's stories. So this is one of my favorite Eamon stories. It's called The Looking Glass. It's always been a source of amusement to me how we all got along before the looking glass was invented. For we all spend enough time in front of it, don't we? But the looking glass was invented, and there was a fellow living way out in Connemara who was unaware of the fact. And one day, because there was an excursion going up to the big city of Dublin, and he had never been there, and the excursion was on the inexpensive side, he decided to go. Well, the day of the trip, it was a lovely day, and he looked at the beauties of the Irish countryside as he went across it. Now, when he got up to Dublin and he got off the bus, he didn't particularly care what direction he went. He started to walk, and he was twisting and turning and looking at all of these buildings, the likes of which he had never seen before. He came around one corner, and there he saw the largest shop he had ever seen in his life. And over it, it said, Woolworths. Nowadays, in modern times, it might be CVS or Walgreens or something like that. And he thought to himself, I wonder what could be in a place like this. So into the shop he goes, and he's walking down the aisles, and he's looking at all of these things on the counters that are being sold. He comes around one corner, and there are these little oblong objects. And the sun was shining in and brought his attention to them. And he was curious. And he went over and he picked up one of the little oblong objects, and he brought it up in front of his eyes. And he looked. And as he looked, the amazement grew. A picture of my father. What on earth are they doing with a picture of my father up here in Dublin? Well, he took the little oblong object. She went over to the girl at the counter. He asked her how much it was, and she told him, and she started to wrap it for him. And he said, do you know where they got these yolks? I don't know, said she. They might have come from London. London, says he? Well, my father was never in London, although he might have stopped there on his way up to heaven. Well, he took the little oblong object and he continued his trip throughout Dublin, and every chance he got, he reached into his pocket and he took out a picture of what he thought was his father. Well, his day was over and he went back home. And of course, he wouldn't let anyone see the little oblong object, particularly the wife. She never had the respect for the father-in-law that he had. And she was dying to find what was he hiding in his pockets. Well, she was a very patient woman. And one day, a neighbor's chimney went on fire. The husband rushed out to help. And as soon as he was out the door, she dove into the pocket, took out the little oblong object, unwrapped it, and brought it up in front of her own face. And as she looked, the amazement grew. And who's this old Dollivard? And if this is what's taking him up to the big city of Dublin, I'll soon put an end to his gallop. Wrapped up the little oblong object, put it back into his jacket, and prepared herself for battle. And don't we all know who we're like when we're in that frame of mind? Well, the husband came back from helping the neighbor. No sooner was in the door, but she attacked him. Who's that picture of that strange woman that you have in your pocket? That's no picture of any woman. That's a That's, so, that's no picture of anyone. That's a picture of my father that I found up in Dublin. With hair curlers and a blouse on, I'll put an end to this. Put on her own coat and went up to the presbytery to see Father John. Well, when Father John heard the news, couldn't believe his ears, knew the man all of his life, knew him to be a kind, pious, God-fearing man. Oh, he has us fooled up to the ball of our eyes, Father. And what's worse, he's got that picture of that strange woman in his pocket. Oh, that wouldn't do, said Father John. If that news got out, there'd be terrible scandal altogether. I'd better go up and talk to him. Up to the house, Father John goes. Well, when the husband saw the priest coming in the door, if there was a hole in the middle of the floor, he gladly would have jumped into it. Now, my good man, said the priest, said Father John, no more of this. Hand out that picture of that strange woman you have. That's no picture of any woman, Father. That's a picture of my father that I found up in Dublin. Out with it, said the priest. But reluctantly, the husband handed over the oblong object. The priest took it and unwrapped it and brought it up in front of his own face. And as he looked, the amazement grew. And then he started to laugh. The two of you are mad. You should have your heads examined. Isn't this the parish priest that was here before myself? Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. And thank you for welcoming me.